working with expats, was that writing Australian policies or was it writing policies in Asia?
So it was an Australian financial planning business dealing with Australians under Australian law. I think that's the best way of putting it.
If ASIC's watching, I understand.
But we were primarily focused on expats. And through that journey, there was always at least one Australian insurance company who was very enlightened to the risks. But certainly we had some great relationships and looked after some great, interesting clients throughout the world.
Today with me, I got Paul Milbourne from Milbourne Insurance Solutions. I got it. I practiced like 5 times.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. So the reason why I wanted to have a chat is because you've started your new business just within the last 12 months. So I want to have a chat, ask you a whole bunch of questions about how it's going, what's working, what you do different. So how's the first, 10 months, is it?
Yeah, it's about, I guess we officially started trading maybe end of March, early April last year.
Yeah, cool.
So it feels like about 10 months anyway.
Yeah. How's it been going?
Mate, it's been hectic. It's been full on. It's been interesting, especially as someone that hasn't done lots of parts of the advice process and job themselves for a very long time. So it's been a bit humbling to remember some of the things your support staff have done for you for a long time, and equally what's changed maybe since last time you did those roles as well.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So talk to me about the decision. So where were you before and why, and what was the whole, how long did you take to decide to go out on your own? Is this something you've been dreaming of doing for 10 years or was this more recent?
Yeah, so I'll go back a bit further for you. I had my own business in one way, shape, manner or form since about 2008. And it was an expat-focused business. I was living in Asia. And sort of 2014, 2015, I knew I had to come home at some point. And it started to make that transition. So I had and I want to be super clear here, a super small, mainly life insurance only business that I tucked into one of the large mid-tier wealth and accounting firms pretty much this time in 2016 and spent the 8 years there. But then to roll forward a bit, the plan always was when me and my wife made those decisions is we'd stay here for 5 years until the youngest finishes high school and then we'd go out self-employed again. And 5 years became 8 years. But yeah, the plan was to always go back out.
Yeah, cool. Let's touch on that business when you were working with expats. Was that writing Australian policies or was it writing policies in Asia?
So it was an Australian financial planning business dealing with Australians under Australian law. I think that's the best way of putting it. But
if ASIC's watching, I understand.
Yes, but we were primarily focused on expats, and through that journey, there was always at least one Australian insurance company who was very enlightened to the risks. We could have a whole other pod, Phil, on the current issues around that enlightenment, but certainly, we had some great relationships and did some, looked after some great, interesting clients. Throughout the world.
Well, I mean, interesting you say that because we've talked about expat cover in the past and we've been able to get some options. There has been an insurance company who has, as you say, is been enlightened to how little the risks are insuring expats. So, we can talk offline about that opportunity. But cool. So you were doing that, and then you joined a big firm, and then you've transitioned out of that firm now.
Exactly.
So how was that transition? Were you kind of planning on starting your business for 2 years? Were you kind of setting things in motion, or was it more like last 6 months before you transitioned out?
Yeah, it was always in the back of my mind, Phil. So my view was always, while I'm having fun and I'm learning something, this would be cool. But there always needed to be a trapdoor, so to speak. So probably from 2020 onwards, in the back of my mind, it was always, it wasn't a matter of if it would happen, it would be a matter of when and just working out what that would look like.
Yeah.
But then to move forward a little bit, sort of maybe August 22, give or take, I can actually picture exactly where it was. It was at the MDRT Global Conference in Sydney. I was walking outside the ICC in Sydney and I just heard a Welsh gentleman speak. And I thought, geez, if what he's just said there works, then it's time to become self-employed. And it just took a little bit of time to play out. I'm like yourself, I've got a wife, children, bills to pay. So you just, it's not like when I was 24 years old where I went, oh, I'll be self-employed now because mum and dad can still feed me.
Yeah. Something I find really interesting is thinking about like the clients and that you're working with in the firm that you're with. Do you have a group of clients that you work with that are your clients, or is it the firm? Like obviously the firm owns the clients,
Yeah.
and we understand that. But in terms of the working structure, is it like here are your group, like here's your book of clients, and you're working with them, and if they need to renew or they need to make adjustments, they come to you directly, or is it
Yeah.
the firm's clients?
Yeah. So in that, I guess the firm's client, to be clear,
Yeah, legally, obviously, yeah.
on that, I had my own client market and had transferred a book and then built a book internally myself, pretty much,
Yeah.
rather than having much of the book transferred from other departing advisors.
Yeah.
So most of my book I built myself.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's most firms will do that. You have a group of clients that you're working with, and you bring in new clients. The reason why I ask you is because at Sky, the way we think about it is the clients of the firm. So, if I originally see them and help set up their policy, I don't need to do a handoff to another advisor because another advisor will help them, answer questions about renewals or make adjustments if we need to. So we've always tried to be very firm centric. I'm not the most important as the advisor, and nor are the advisors that we have. But I think the reason why I ask is because I think we're a little bit unique in that matter that we don't feel like the clients are the individual advisor's clients.
No, and look, so my business now is exactly the same. And I made a lot of accidental good decisions if I go back to 2008, 2009, 2010, and it always operated that way. If I go back to my old business, my clients are well and truly trained in that life, unless it was a matter of, let's call it advice, they'd call Aaron or Saeed, my support people.
Yeah.
And we're no different now, is that it's pretty clear on what my role is, and that if it's not for me, then they know who to email, who to call. And equally, as we grow out and start taking on advisors, that will have to naturally change, Phil. Like you said, it's not called Paul Milbourne for a reason.
Yeah. So tell me about the transition out. So did you buy some clients out to start? Did you acquire a book that's separate from your business? Or did you just go, cold turkey out on your own?
Yeah, no. So we acquired a small part of my previous client book from my old employer, which gave us a grounding and a start. Probably the good news, I guess, or for me personally, was by virtue of, I call it age, tenure in the industry, and being really active on building a personal brand and having good networks externally to where I was working, I was able to pretty quickly procure new business. So we had a bit of trail to keep us going and to turn the lights on. But make no mistake, we are a new business focused business. We are active in procuring client books. So we've got an opportunity that we're settling on at the moment, and probably 2 or 3 other really small tuck-ins that will hopefully settle before Easter. But what we're doing with that is we're not looking for 2,000-3,000 clients. We're looking to work with the higher end wealth management firms. So, usually advisors that have been doing this job 20, 30 years, they've got a small group of older clients who need and want insurance. They don't do it. They don't do it well. It's a problem for them. But what they're really focused on is, can we trust you? Will you look after our client? Will you look after our client? Will you look after our client?
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust you? Will you look after our client? And then it's, a financial discussion.
Yeah.
It's not led by, what will you pay me for this?
Yeah. It's not a multiples discussion necessarily.
It's literally solving a problem for them and their business.
And so, let's dive into that. If you have like multiple opportunities with small books and let's assume you're going to acquire, a few, do you think about what are the future opportunities in the partnership of the firm that I'm acquiring it off, or is it just simply you looking at it based on those client policies in and of itself?
The latter. So we would prefer to be in a relationship that is going to see growth opportunity with it.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be a volume growth opportunity. I can think of one firm in particular. I probably get 1 lead every 2 years off that person, but the kind of client they introduce me to is a significant client. So I'm more looking at that. Do they work with the right clients for us? And when that opportunity comes along, will that right client be happy to work with us? So we're looking at that rather than just writing them a check and taking the clients off them and going.
Yeah.
Because equally, with client profiles that work with those kind of wealth firms, as much as this might hurt my ego, that client usually still sees that person as their key relationship.
Yeah.
And it takes a substantial amount of time to maneuver that. So you still need them on board with, I don't do this, go to Paul.
Yeah. And I mean, there is an interesting move in financial advice. I think advisors, because when we get authorized, you get authorized to recommend insurance as well. Like that's on every advisor's authority.
Yep.
Unless the licensee has scoped that out, which is going to be unusual. So I think that, a lot of advisors who previously did it and it was profitable to do and to build it into the holistic advice process. But now more people are going, well, yes, I'm authorized. Yes, it says that on my ASIC register, but I don't offer that service. Is that what you're seeing as well? Or is it, and if it is, do you think we see it because we're biased and because we're looking at those opportunities and we're talking to those people who are no longer wanting to do it?
Column A, column B.
Yeah.
We're definitely seeing more of it, Phil, because we're active in that market. But I also think it's more of on that holistic financial landscape, the regulatory changes that come through, the education changes, and businesses at the higher end, and therefore the advisors, are sort of seeing and saying, well, our businesses are pretty good now, right? We know what education looks like. We've got our model portfolios, et cetera. We've got our marketing machine. All right, well, we have to go back to this insurance thing now, because we kind of have some obligations, the requirements of FASIA, et cetera, tell us what we should be doing. So what are we going to do about this? And then they're going to their advisor force, and the advisors are largely saying, we're full, we don't know how to do it, we don't want to do it, it's not a skill. They might dip their toes, they get burnt a few times. And then they're going, okay, well, it's not something we can do well. We don't have the skill or ability to do it well, so therefore how can we partner with someone who does do it well? And that's the opportunity I think I'm seeing, as are you, is that do we trust you to look after our clients and can you do it well? Then we see you as a natural value add to our business.
And there's also the risk. I mean, I think there's a few things in there. There's like the commissions. Like now that holistic advice is pure fee for service, it's easy, and they've got to do all the the opt-ins and the FDSs and everything.
Yep.
Like everything is like incredibly transparent for their clients, except for insurance commissions. And so there is kind of this incongruency with those holistic firms where they're like, well, let's just remove that line item out of a fee disclosure statement. Because it's not profitable, so we may as well get rid of the unprofitable area and partner with someone, because there is, I think we all can understand, and I think that there is more consensus towards commission is a very reasonable and viable option for insurance. There are some people out there who don't believe that, and that's their right.
You're running a profitable business.
Well, I guess there's some people who think commissions are still not ethical or reasonable, which, each to their own. But I think that's where maybe the driver is in that, and also the complexity. I've always had the philosophy where insurance is at the highest risk. And, talking to a firm last week who we, work with, and they're going through some client concerns and issues because of the insurance side, and they fundamentally didn't actually do anything wrong, but they know they're on the hook for something that they really didn't do anything wrong. But that's the world we live in, that we're all on the hook for everything, regardless if it's our fault or not.
I think the other one as well, Phil, is claims. And younger advisors are often taking on an older book and they don't know insurance very well, and also they're dealing with a claim. And, TPD is just inherently complicated. Even if it's easy, it's complicated. Income protection can get complicated, especially for the self-employed people. And if you don't know it from an advice point of view or a sales point of view, then managing a claim, pretty tough.
Yeah. And also the income protection changes. Like how many, professional year advisors who are in a holistic firm have any idea what a pre-2021 income protection policy is? And unless the firm is very, dedicated in educating them, but there's a million things to understand and know and to tick the right boxes. So
Yep.
yeah, I think there's been a whole bunch of driving factors towards, the opportunities that we see in the market. You talked about acquiring books and looking at partnering with the right businesses. Talk to me about your thinking, for anyone else out there who's listening, who is either considering going out on their own or has just done it. Like, talk to me about the whole process and structure around thinking about bringing in smaller books of businesses versus just going, I am purely focused on bringing in new clients.
Yep. So I guess just to be clear maybe on that, we're actively not looking to acquire large volumes of clients. It is tuck-in opportunities, small quantities of clients that fit our ideal client profile.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. Otherwise, I would say BAU for us is new business from that point of view there.
So just to dial down on that, like how much of your time do you think you're spending on new client, new business versus like reviewing these opportunities?
Reviewing the opportunities for acquire is probably an hour a week, give or take, because it's relationship based on someone I know or someone that's introduced me. So we're not active with the business brokers or that kind of thing. So then most of my time is spent in two areas. It's either with relationships for introductions, i.e. working with trusted partners, or working with new clients. And given we have such a small client book at the end of the day now, there is the review, because we do actively review our clients and have an active ongoing relationship. And one of the key reasons to that as well, besides it's a good thing to do, is we actively get referrals from those clients. But going from having 350 odd clients to having 30 when I started, obviously I have a lot more capacity to do the new business.
Yeah, I mean, if you build that relationship with that 30 group of clients and saying like, I wonder, is it a different conversation with those clients to be like, hey, I work for a big corporate, love an introduction versus, hey, I've just started this business. I'd love you to partner with me and help me grow this by providing a referral. Are your clients who you brought across in the new business, are they referring more now because you've started the new business?
So I'll answer that around the corner, so to speak. I was given a great bit of advice probably about a year before I went out by myself, which was, mate, you'll be highly surprised by who you could bank on or you thought you could bank on, and you'll be equally surprised times 10 as to who's got your back and will help you.
Yeah.
And that was the big positive of the amount of phone calls of, mate, great to see what you're up to. How can I help you? And that was, as I said, that's whether it was your clients or just people in your network, and people, really do have your back and want to see you successful. And yes, so to answer that, I handpicked the clients that I acquired, which obviously helped. But they are invested in my success, I think is the best way of putting it. And that's because we have a genuine relationship, though. All of them are people that I would have dinner with or would come to my house, or equally they'd invite me to their house, right? So we actually like each other. And our relationship transcends just I'll be there if you got a health issue for a check, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different discussion, Phil, around relationships and doing business with the right people.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that, this is my third iteration of this. So I think about my first, and the cleansing I was able to do to get rid of the dickheads when it was, fog and mirror, let's do business.
And so how do you think about that now? Now you're starting back from, essentially scratch. How do you think about not getting into that trap of just, taking anyone with a heartbeat?
Yeah. So we're really clear on ideal client profile, super clear, A's, B's and C's. And
you can be clear but still not follow it. Are you clear and following it? Yeah. Okay,
yes,
good.
yes.
Because I can be incredibly clear on what client I want, but still take the bad clients.
Yeah. We like helping people, so we'll be clear. We don't sit there and throw people to the wolves either. We do like helping people, and I am cognizant that certain referrals and introducers, you have to kiss the frog sometimes, because I think we still should help people. But helping people doesn't mean you have to do it all yourself. It might just simply mean having a nice guiding conversation and suggesting they go over there or go over there to execute.
I mean, we referred you a client that we felt wasn't the right client for us, and I was like, hey, I think you're going to be better served with Paul. And so, that came from one of our key referral partners, and there was no issues and concerns of going, well, I've referred you to them, Phil, you need to work with them. Actually, no, I refer to you, Phil, but I want you to find a solution, whether that's insurance solution or whether that's someone who will find that insurance solution for them. That's a really important part of, and I think advisors, like our industry, I was talking to someone last week. I was up in Sydney and had a coffee with someone who is around the advice space, but not really, not an advisor, but, dabbling in and around the advice space. And she was saying to me, like, she's so surprised that more she is in and around advice, how like friendly and supportive advisors are of each other. And I was like, well, this is kind of the only real industry I've been in since, like only real professional industry I've been in. And so I was like, I agree, fundamentally agree. I think advisors are incredibly friendly. I've only ever had one advisor who didn't want to share some information with me. Everyone else is, and I ask questions all the time. I ask for help all the time. And one in my whole career who said, no, I'm not comfortable because that's my, intellectual property. I was like, okay, that's fair enough. But everyone else has always been willing to share. And so I responded with, like, isn't that just normal? And she was like, no, not in any other industry I've seen. It hasn't been as collegiate as financial advice. And I think we're super fortunate in that space where, you start on your own and, the other advisors will be like, patting you on the back saying, good luck, let's go.
I think it's really interesting. Sort of, I started at the end of, the institutions of AMP, National Mutual. Obviously, the banks had everything on High Street at then, so they became enemy number one. And I was lucky enough to work in a small suburban accounting firm who was the benefactor of the big four banks on Main Street in that town. But I always looked at that, and that was really combative. There was, let's call it us over there, and who were, you can't use the word independent, but I have a better example of it right now, non-aligned to an insto maybe. Then you still had
the good guys.
The good guys. Then you had your AMPs over there, then you had your banks over there, and that wasn't all that collaborative, but equally we shared and cared. It doesn't exist today, Phil. I mean, you've got a great business. I reckon there could be 100 Skywells and you would still not have an issue at all and would have an amazing business still.
Yeah. And I mean, most advisors are like, I have conversations with people who, reach out to me and say, oh, we had a client who we're doing their like holistic advice with, and we didn't make the intro. And we saw that you were, you're looking after their insurance, and so we're not going to touch it, which, sometimes they would, naturally wrap it all in together, but they're like, oh, we see that you're working with it, so we're happy with it, leaving it there. And so, I have plenty of those conversations all the time with people. So the other things I was wanting to touch on is hiring. How do you think about hiring?
We had that chat.
Yeah, we did offline, and so I'll ask you again.
I've been a lot quicker in growth than I anticipated, which has meant a lot of things have been done on the fly rather than the very methodical nature I'd like to do them in.
Okay, pause there, because my next question is actually about, we'll get back to hiring, but my next question is about the difference between the Excel spreadsheet that you build, planning for the business, versus reality. Talk to me about those two differences. Like, did you model out the first 12 months, 3 years, 5 years? In terms of growth, what did you think your revenue would have been in year one?
So we had really, really simple. I'm happy to share my numbers. I don't really mind. It would have been 150 of trail and about 200 of new business revenue.
In year one?
In year one. That was minimum viability, mind you, but it kept all the bills paid and the doors opened and my daughters fed.
And so that that trail revenue, that was from the acquired business.
Exactly.
You're obviously not factoring any trail because year one.
Yeah. The reality of that, we probably did close to that new business already. You don't write much new business in your first 2 or 3 months, funnily enough.
No, we don't get paid within that time frame.
So I look at it this financial year, and we would have issued pretty close to about $180,000 of new business revenue.
Yeah,
we're run rating at about 220, 230 of trail commission. That's not including your new business. So, you add that on next financial year and then a couple of tuck-ins, and I would imagine we'd be well over $500,000 of trail for next financial year without pulling out the projections for a second, Phil.
Yeah,
as long as we can fix our factory up, I don't really see any issues in my business being able to produce well over $1 million of new business.
And so do you think year 2, do you have any idea of what the Excel spreadsheet was telling you would do?
Yeah, so we kept it really simple. Minimum, i.e. this just keeps the doors open, but why are you doing this? Medium and outperforming. We didn't discuss this before, Phil, but one of the things I'd put in there as well was qualification for top of the table, the $1 million round table.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to do that, given I'm a new business, based on new business.
Yep.
Which is circa 1.3-ish of new business premium to achieve
Premium.
that.
Yep.
So that was always, let's call it a non-negotiable in this business.
And within how, what was the time frame?
For the 2025 calendar year, given that's how the MDRT work.
What's that? Wait, I'm slow. 1.3 million premiums.
Yeah, about that.
And do the math for me. What's that in revenue?
I don't know, maybe 700.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Someone can put a comment when you put this out.
Yeah, I know. Like, why these idiots not know their math? It's okay. We're insurance advisors.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a
cool.
neat analysis calculator for that.
Yeah. No, I think it's really interesting to understand. Like, Excel spreadsheets. Some people either get like super conservative or super. It's never reality.
Yep.
We've all done like holistic advisors. If you've ever done holistic advice, you've done a projection on a super balance or whatever, and then you look, 5 years down the line, you're like, sometimes it's like, oh, we're actually pretty bang on. That we got lucky. Most of the time, it can be out like with cash flow planning and stuff. We know that, I'm going to Europe this year, like that.
Yeah.
If I didn't budget that 2 years ago, but we're doing it this year, and it's costing a bomb. And so Excel versus reality is always really interesting, and people can be really cagey, and not intentionally, but it's hard to find out. Like, but I always like asking the question, how are you actually doing versus what you expected? And so you're happy, you're further ahead than what the Excel spreadsheet was bare minimum.
And we actively monitor that. So I have a board of advisors as well. So it's a very corporatized small business at the end of the day, Phil. We've got a really clear mission on what we're trying to grow. And as a result, I can't do that by myself. I need to have good people around me and good people that can hold me to account, make sure I behave myself, not in a bad way, but as in do the behaviors to drive the ultimate outcome. And so knowing your numbers, whatever that might well be, and doing the behaviors to achieve that is super important.
Yeah. Now let's come back to hiring, because you talked about revenue and I took us off track. But coming back to hiring, because revenue is always one thing, but you've got to spend money in the business. There's expenses, and so they can always be much greater than you anticipate, because you don't realize how much X-Plan license is, or we actually need these 5 other softwares. It's going to cost us whatever, $50,000 a year.
Yep.
Tell me about hiring, because that's obviously a big ticket expense that you've got to decide when to pull the trigger on. So talk to me about that.
I reckon I'm first of all lucky that this isn't my first time in small business, and that when I did this, I'll go back to 2010 maybe. It's probably a really good example. And I was at genuine full capacity in that business, but I was never deliberately a business owner, Phil, at that point. It had just happened accidentally. So I wasn't actually thinking like a business owner. And I hired a young lady. And I remember talking to my dad about it, and he was like, well, why don't you do it? Just get up an hour earlier, make 2 more phone calls. So the whole thing is I just had to 10x her wage, and I wanted to 10x her wage in a year, and I 10x it in about 6 or 8 weeks in reality, because I did what my dad said and got up a little bit earlier and made a few more phone calls and a few more emails, and to your point earlier, got a little bit more efficient. And then, and look, she was really good. And we put more work on her. Then I took on another gentleman, and those 2 really got me up and running at that particular juncture in business. So moving forward to now, I'll call it the hiring part and the mental shifts. They aren't hard because you've been there, done it, and that one's easy. So it's more about who do you hire, what do they do, where do they do it, and going back to my earlier comment, a lot of parts of our job I haven't done, as in the broader piece, I haven't done for myself since maybe 2013 or something like that, or 2012. So that becomes the harder piece, because you're one, and there you're doing everything yourself. And as I've learned substantially, there's a lot of rework in my business, and it's caused by one person.
And his name is Paul.
Exactly right. So we actually had a meeting 2 weeks ago with with my support staff where we agreed that Paul will no longer do admin at all, because it's better off them taking 3 hours to do some of that work and getting it right the first time than it being done 3 times and taking us 9 hours.
Yeah.
So to answer the hiring piece, a lot of it has been, so my wife came into the business because she knew Xplan, not life insurance. And it was just help me out for a week, help me out for a fortnight, help me out for a month while you're in the business now. And then similar, some of it's been around network and the like as well. As I had I call it a plumbing problem at the time. I needed a plumber. And what I really needed was a really experienced person who wanted to be back of house, if that makes sense, but knew how to be front of house.
Yeah.
So they were able to pick up my client files at the time and work through them and come back and say, well, Paul, to move this forward, you will need this, this, and this, as opposed to being, an inexperienced person where I would have to gift all of that to them.
And how do you think moving forward? What's the plan moving forward?
Back to outlook. We need and will be hiring some kind of, I'll call it practice manager. I haven't defined exactly what any of this means right now. One thing we didn't discover too much, but given what you showed me, is I've literally just started or finished, I'll call it stage 1 of a CRM process. So I call it I'm building a 10-story apartment block, Phil. You're probably under floor 9 right now in terms of your 10-story apartment block and everything yours does. And my view on all of this, and a bit like yours, is let's serve our clients how they want to be served in 2025 for life insurance. Everything in the marketplace does not do it for life insurance. It does it for holistic financial planning, and the ugly stepsister just gets tucked on at the end.
Yeah.
So similar to you, something bespoke to us, bespoke to our business, and therefore to that point, as we roll out and with a couple of larger JVs about to come on board where we need to scale, really have that practice manager person able to take ownership of that process, ownership of building the operations and the workflows, and equally ownership of, keep it super simple, how do you change an address? All right, let's create the Loom video for it.
Yeah. I mean, the fun thing about technology, to bring it back to your analogy about, building a 10-story building, and then we're at level 9. We're not at level 9. The analogy is correct, but we built our 10-story building. We got to level 4, and then we went, actually, we've built this in the wrong location. We've moved CRMs, and then we went, all right, let's start from scratch. And it's okay because we can build much quicker now because we've learned heaps of things about that first build.
Yep.
And then when we get to level 9, we're at level 9, but then we look up and we go, actually, this is a 20-story building. We're still got many stories to go. And then because, the more you lean into it, the more you build technology, the more you realize, it's capable of this. And technology has always moved really quick, but I think it's moving quicker than it ever has in the history of the world, and it will always speed up.
So we caught up around that probably move from whatever it was to Hub. And that was a catalyst for the decision I made. And it coincided with reading Dan Sullivan, 10X is easier than 2X.
Yeah.
And that was to me making some of those decisions of, I'll keep it really, you spoke about budgets and stuff like that. And we had a minimum, a middle and a max, right? And if you hit in the middle, you would have gone, that's okay. Well, what's the point in that? If we don't set stupid goals and objectives, we're not going to make decisions. We're just going to make regular decisions.
Yeah.
So it was that mind shift to a bit like yours and your BHAG, right? You've made completely different decisions, I'm sure, in your business to get a business that can be the number 1 new business producer in Australia in 2 years' time. Yep. And
it's a stupid goal.
Yeah, but I'm similar, right? I'm a long way behind in my journey to you, but it was, well, why use Monday, for example, which is going to work for me and 2 other people. We need something that can be scalable and built in modern technology in the current or in the future world. And I wanted to do it when there was 30 clients, not when there was 3,000.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're transitioning something that will never be finished.
And I think, the technology problem is no one solved it. No, Google hasn't solved it. So if Google can't solve it and they're a technology business and they've got the smartest people in the world and the biggest budgets in the world, then we can't solve it. So we've always got to know that we're never going to solve it. But I think about, all right, we're at level 9 of this building. We know we've got to go to 20. But then we look around and go, well, actually, have we built this in the right spot still?
Yeah.
Do we need to move? Is this platform that we're building on allowing us to be the number one producer in new business premiums. Like maybe it isn't. And so, it's one of those things. I know, like really experienced businesses who've been around a long time and are really in the forefront of this, tech build. They still struggle with it as well, and so it's a never-ending tussle, which is good fun. Now, the next question is, I did want to talk to you about something I always talk to a lot of new small business owners is I coined the term, like, it's small business, running a small business is like just an emotional roller coaster. The more established you are, it doesn't stop being a roller coaster. It just, the dips go up and down much less than they used to. How are you managing that from a personal point of view and mental health point of view? Like, because it is a roller coaster. You get a massive deal that gets completed and you think we're going to crush it and there's no limit, and then something falls over, gets declined or whatever, and you're like, oh, no, let's shut down the whole business. How do you deal with a roller coaster?
Poorly most of the time. The good news is, having worked a lot in the business succession space, I say this thing: no one loves your business like you do, and business owners love their business. I'm no different. You're no different to that. And just trying to make sure that I love my wife and girls more than my business, because often that's a harder thing for business owners in general as well. The good news for me, I guess, is being around long enough is I understand the ebbs and flows, even though it is emotional. So I'm a big believer in having my data, so I can, when it is dark, you can go back and go, oh, we'll have a look at the underwriting queue and what can I do to move that forward as an example, or if I make those 2 phone calls over there. So I'm really big on that, because I know it's a really lonely job at the end of the day, and that will always be the case. And it's lonely being a business owner, whether you're in financial planning or any other business. I won't lie, I work 7 days a week again at the moment. My wife told me last Sunday that I'm not working and I've got to take her out, which I did.
Good.
But then still do 2 hours work.
Yeah.
But it just is, to me, it is what it is, right? And if I wanted something else, I'd go on wages and work 38 hours a week. But it's not what I want. And so I'm building something that, as you are as well, that's part of a bigger vision that you have, as I have for my business. And the reality is, it's not all work, right? You find it fulfilling, which certainly helps. It is just carving out some of that balance. And I don't profess to get any of that right whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think having a family that's supportive and that you communicate and your wife having the freedom to be able to go, pull your head in, you're taking me out, is great, is exactly what you need. I remember when we were really starting to scale and our team wasn't big enough, and I still look back at my calendar and me and Trent in my business, anytime any of the advisors complain about having a busy week where they had 8 meetings, I just take a screenshot of my calendar back when the income protection changes came in and I was the only, AR in the business. So I had like 5 people prepping my plans, and I would just literally every day would sit down and do for 3 weeks straight, I did 25 meetings, and then not including any video recorded meetings because people couldn't find the slots. And it was literally like, I just get up, suck eggs for the whole day, drink, honey lemon tea all day long, like 3 times a day, and just absolutely suck eggs. And it was like miserable. And then I'd have to like review the documents at night, sitting at the, watching TV with my wife and just on the emails. And my wife knew that it was a short time, and it was a short time. I don't do that anywhere near as much these days. But it's just about being, disciplined and knowing that actually when you start a small business, you got to do some garbage work that you do not want to be doing, and you just don't have the resources, capacity, ability to outsource somewhere else. And it kind of doesn't stop. Like, we're at a scale where we've got, 40 team members in our business. We've got plenty of advisors. I'm not doing client meetings, but there's plenty of sucking eggs that I've got to do, and you just got to, put up with it. And I was talking to someone in my team yesterday about their personal situation and talking about someone else who just given up on their business, and they're like, oh, they just want to find something that they're passionate about. Guess what? Starting a small business, you will be you need to be passionate about it broadly, but 80% of your work needs to be sucking eggs at the start. Yeah. Is that your experience?
Yeah.
Well, good news for you, it doesn't stop.
Yeah, I know. I know. Look, circa 9 a.m, the phone starts, and everything goes to shit until about 5 o'clock, and then you sit there. I laugh at my wife is doing some work for me, and she came in one day to give me some feedback, and I sort of showed her, said, have a look at this. These are the emails and everything else I started at 7 this morning. It's now 6:30 at night, right? There's 5 drafts of something. That's the inbox. There's been 40 phone calls today. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And then, yes, you can go and talk to someone, or you can get some help and this, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a slog. And you know, the thing about roller coasters is they do dips, they do loops, and you know, you get spun out, but they also go up as well. And that's the thing about small business, is they do go up as well.
The one thing I was going to say about you and your pre-IP changes is, and this is, you know, not a session for you and I to tell you how good we are, but I always go back to, I'll call it, you know, what made me I am today, and that was, you know, young, self-employed, scrapping every day, so to speak, and similar, you know, had a period where, you know, I was doing 30, 35 meetings a week, back to back, a bit of travel as well. And I remember getting in from the airport about 1 o'clock in the morning, my daughter being sick. She had really bad asthma, send her to the hospital with the wife, you know, maybe leave there at 4 o'clock in the morning to all be back in the office for 7:30 again.
Yeah.
And now my kids are older, and I look at other people going, how don't you have perfect 7 hours sleep? But you go through all those patches because it actually helps set you up for where you are today. And you know, when you do get through to a spot where you are now, where you're dealing with different problems, you can look back on those fondly. But equally, I have to remember this as well. You can't expect other people to do the crazy hours or the crazy stuff you do.
And we never expected. And to be fair, like, I mean, I had literally 5 people prepping my SOAs. Yeah. Our advisors don't have that. And the reason I had 5 people prepping my SOAs is because I just literally called up friends during the time. And because there was a deadline, and I felt obliged that we needed to get these policies in place, and the opportunity's there and the money's there, yes, but it was like I felt an obligation to the clients to make sure we work as hard as we can. So I literally call up advisors and say, hey, can you come and prep SOAs for me if you've got capacity? And I wasn't the only advisor providing advice out of choice. Like, we had some people, but they just weren't getting authorised, and it was a bit of a hoo-ha. So yeah, there's never an expectation, but sometimes I just kind of I'm like, yeah, it's different problems, but it's funny sometimes. We have a giggle about it with me and Trent. But talk to me about the long-term plan. What's the future look like? Are you planning on building? Because this is a conversation a lot of small business owners think about: is do I want to have a lifestyle business? You know, or do I want to really scale it? And also, like, can I scale it and have a significant business? But then also, is that what I want to do? Because, you know, do I want to manage a whole bunch of people and lead a big team, or stay small and stay really profitable?
Yep. I want to put the caveat: there is nothing wrong with having a small lifestyle business and being highly profitable. I've said this again, my wife the other week, she was asking a question about someone. I said, but maybe we're the idiots, darling. They've got their wonderful house in Wonga Park with the swimming pool and the tennis court, and they go to their kids' basketball at 4:30. So, you know, maybe we are, maybe they're the smarter ones. But no, we are clear in terms of we're building a scalable business. The opportunity in risk insurance right now in Australia, the darkest is before dawn. We're through dawn. We're probably at 1 o'clock now, give or take. There is, you know, in reality, less than 10,000 advisors really giving advice right now. The financial planners are turning to it. The accountants are turning to it again. Obviously, the regulation change coming through. We know it's not going to get any harder than it is today. I believe that the institutions, when this is all said and done, whatever that might well mean, will be distributing their own product again, which I'm comfortable with. So we really want to build out a business that partners with growth-focused wealth, accounting, insurance and general insurance brokerages. We want to be with the right people at the end of the day. We don't want to be sitting with, you know, a bunch of old men who want to complain about the good old days. We want to go out and have fun, grow together, grow good businesses together, and ultimately serve really good clients.
Yeah.
And to me, that's really important, is that if we partner with the right businesses, they have good clients, funnily enough, because birds of a feather flock together, and we can serve clients, build a good business, and then see what this industry looks like in 5 years' time, Phil. Because I think it will look very different in 5 or, you know, once the regulatory change goes through, things will, you'll blink in 3 years' time and go, wow, that institution over there's now got 200 whatevers doing whatever. It won't happen overnight like the Pantene ad, Phil, but it will happen.
Yeah, maybe not 3 years, only because nothing's been tabled with this government. But
once
the new
that
government,
goes through,
if it's not Labor, the new government will want to do their own review and put their own stamp on their own decisions. And so, but I agree, 5 years time, instos will be back in.
Yeah.
Like the fact that like Clearview can't sell their own insurance products to people who come to them.
Yeah.
Is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the same camp. I do not see it as an issue. I see it as huge upsides.
And the other one,
go.
You and I clearly agree on this as well, is what not a technology-driven business, but the opportunity for that to bring out scale and opportunity. I didn't ask you this before, but the opportunity to literally have advisors advising only. It's not that far away now. I look at how my file notes are done, and they're probably about 98% right now, give or take. And the email to my other staff is about 95% right. Imagine I could just sit there and just punch out 10 meetings a day, 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're salivating that opportunity to have your advisors be able to do that.
I mean, I just think the amount of other work that the advisors are doing that a computer could basically give us a green tick or a red cross to tell us if it's right or not. So, one of the tasks we do is like when we get amended terms that we don't expect, because we do heaps of pre-assessments, our team will write a note. What was in the fact find? What was in the personal statement? What, are there any medicals requested? Yeah. So someone will manually do that note and then tag the advisor. The advisor will then look at it, make their own judgment of, is this reasonable? Yes, the client didn't disclose it, but they disclosed it in the personal statement. It's reasonable. Let's lock it in and tell the client to accept. Do we need to make adjustments to the advice? But a computer could do all of that in a second and just say, wasn't disclosed in the fact find, but was in the personal statement. It's reasonable. No changes to the advice needed. So let's send the email automatically to the client to accept it.
Yep.
And then book in a phone call if they want to talk about how it works.
But clients want advice. So it's just getting advisors away from the stuff that they're not good at and don't add value and getting them back in front of more people, giving them more advice.
Yeah.
Which I would argue is the fun part of the job, not doing paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important for the advisors to be aware of it. Like sometimes I think about like taking some of those tasks off the advisors. The advisors aren't learning and growing in their underwriting knowledge. No. If a computer says yes or no and they trust the computer to say yes or no, they're not really growing as why did the computer say yes or no? So that is a little bit of a concern, but at the end of the day, they need to be able to communicate why the computer said yes or no to the clients because the clients want to know. The clients want to have an understanding of it. And so that's my only thinking is we're not going to slow down our process unless there's a huge value add for the advisors to get involved and roll up their sleeves to understand underwriting. That's the only thing I'd love a computer to answer all the questions, but as long as the advisors are fully aware of it. Mate, this has been a great chat. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants to reach out to you, how do they get in touch?
LinkedIn, Paul Milbourne. Pretty easy. I'm active enough on it.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
Exactly right. Always happy to have a chat.
Hey, mate, you know what? This morning I was been trying to go for bike rides in the morning. Like I've got a home trainer and I'm trying to do like 4 mornings a week, 4 weekday mornings a week. And the last 2 mornings, what day are we? Thursday. Yeah, last 2 mornings, Tuesday, Wednesday, I didn't. And then this morning I was like, really cannot be bothered. Opened up LinkedIn and your post about, going to the gym on a regular basis and losing a whole bunch of weight. I was like, damn it. I got to do it.
I think that's an old one though.
Maybe, but it inspired me to get up and go for a ride this morning. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was an old one that's somehow resurfaced again.
Yeah.
Have a look. It's not working at the moment.
Hey, well, you got to fix your knee and then we'll get it sorted out. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Phil. It's fun.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.